So the logic behind having a max price and a specific formula is so that you can more easily manage your pricing in bulk. And having a formula, let's say $5 plus to the buy box price at the time of purchase, is because you're going to be, hopefully you'll be, accepting that kind of price as well, because if you're willing to sell it at the buy box price when you researched it, this is a fair price for you. So in this example I have for my buy list, where we want to sell this for $18.50, we bought it for $8.50. So setting my max price at $23 is reasonable. I'm not going to set my max price at $40 because our repricer is set to go to our maximum price when we're the last FBA seller on the listing. So it makes sense for us to be within a fair range, because we want our max price to be the most a customer will pay for an item. Now, to continue the previous thought I had was you should not go above MSRP on Amazon, because they'll suppress the buy box. And when the buy box is suppressed, it'll be harder for a customer to search it and add to cart, and it'll be less searchable overall, and you'll get less sales with the suppressed buy box unless it's a very hot selling item that is known to sell above MSRP, which happens fairly frequently during Q4 with toys. But for the regular products you're sourcing throughout the year that aren't specifically seasonal or aren't specifically, the quickest movers, your max price should be either equal to or under MSRP unless it's selling higher than that. So you want to make sure that you're not going above it this way as well, which is why setting your max price at the buy box price at the time of purchase also makes sense, but doesn't necessarily have to be your main criteria or your main reasoning. Now, to go back a little bit for all the ones that are listening online, this is a template I have on the Matrix in the templates and how-to section called App Eagle Buy List template, and you can customize as long as these column headers are named correctly. You can have any buy list just as long as you copy the information incorrectly. So you can take this from your OA sourcing, you have Profit Bandit or Scoutify 2. I'm going to update the version to accompany those as well. But as long as you have your SKU in the column SKU, your title and title, your cost price, and your original selling price here, these formulas will operate correctly, and these have to be filled out in order to upload them. Now, once you copy your data into the spreadsheet, you just have to drag down the data from editing the yellow columns until it matches everything. And then the formulas will fill in themselves. And make sure the marketplace ID doesn't create a number series like it did here, because this ID is unique to your account. So if this number is different, it won't import these at all. So you have to make sure this gets copied downward. Now, some people's Excel will automatically do that by default. It just, some people, if they don't, it's kind of up in the air. I don't remember exactly the reasoning. But if it does create a series, for example, if you click on this little thing down here, sorry, one second. If you click on the little box that shows up, you can choose copy cells. If it does create a number series, this will usually pop up every time you drag something downward. But either way, the formula I have here built, and for the people here who already heard this, is roughly estimating a 30% ROI. I have a breakdown for the math I can send out, which also should be on the Matrix as well, so if you need that explained. If you want to change the ROI to be at 40% or 50%, you just change the number within here, so it would be 1.4 to estimate a 40%. So you just change that in here and then update it that way, and you'll see it'll update the prices roughly based on that. And you can use this for any of your criteria. So that's a good and easy way to initially set your prices in your repricer if you're using App Eagle or a repricer that allows you to do bulk imports. There are repricers out there that don't allow bulk imports unless you have a higher subscription level. I know some people that use Be Cool have to do things manually sometimes. But if you're able to import everything in bulk, you can have this formula built on the sheet, and then the next step is just to save this as a CSV file to make a copy. And you want to make sure you do save as, because you want your template to stay blank when you open it again. And then you can import this to whatever software you need to, if they accept it, that is. So when I do this now, if I want to open the template again, the template will be blank again. So I open the template. Oh, I didn't rename it. Okay, here we go. But it stays blank. So this, I think, is a really easy way to manage your inventory, at least initially, because you have a list of things you purchased and of things that you either have in your warehouse or house or wherever you're doing your packaging, and you know the products are going to be live at Amazon soon, or you know they're in transit, and they're likely going to be in your repricers database within the next 24 hours, because all software that speak with Amazon, they communicate on a schedule with Amazon. So every 6 hours or every 12 hours, whatever it is for the software, they'll grab your SKUs from Seller Central and import it to their database. So you don't have to add new products. You're just updating existing products, which is why it's important you map in the fields correctly, so your repricer knows what they go to, what they correlate with. So any questions so far on that? I apologize again for the people listening online for missing the first half of me speaking. But any questions regarding pricing initially, and then I'll speak about my process, which is slightly varied version of this. Okay, so I hope that makes sense for everybody so far, because this can save a lot of time when you're just doing your sourcing, or rather doing your inventory management in general. So my method is as follows, and it's a little bit more tricky, but what I'll do is I'll just show you how I get my inventory from AppEagle first. That's the wrong website. So with AppEagle, they allow you to download your entire inventory. So what I can do is I can isolate just my newer inventory. So if I download our entire list of inventory, since I'm the one that handles all the pricing, if my inventory has a minimum price and that means I've priced it at some point. If it doesn't have a minimum price, that means that I haven't priced it yet. If it has a cost price, 99% of the time it's going to have a minimum price, because I only price things when I have the cost price, unless there's an extreme example where I could not find it. But if it doesn't have a cost price, it might still have a minimum price for that exact reason. So in case if I happen to find not find the cost of goods, but it's inventory that's just sitting there, I'll make a decision and put minimum and maximum prices based on the market. So if and only if I have in my database or in my spreadsheet no minimum price and no cost overlap, that's going to be in almost every scenario new inventory that just got grabbed from Amazon. So I have a macro built on my computer to do this automatically. But basically, what it does is I look for min price, anything that has a min price. That should be that. Fix that after. Anything that has a min price. So if I uncheck all the zeros and then delete everything down here, this will get rid of everything I don't need to price with. If it has a min price, I've worked on it. If it doesn't have a min price, but has a cost price, it's likely it's old inventory, or it's just stuff I need to work on that I haven't gotten to yet. But in any case, for the time being, I'm going to focus on just the items that are no cost and no min, because our inventory is a little bit messy. We have a lot of older stuff that I haven't completely removed from our database yet. But theoretically, anything that's overlapping with no cost and no min in your database, if you do it this way, will be new inventory that your repricer just grabbed. So I'd recognize a lot of these as not new inventory. They may have been mistakes in uploads or products that we purchased that we didn't end up getting. I just have to work on deleting these. But let's just go in the example. These are your new inventory. What I do is I go to our purchase tracking list. And for those that don't know, we have a master purchase sheet of all of our buys on our Google Drive. We have a template for that in the Matrix as well. But I actually keep a copy of this on my own computer, just so I can use Excel formulas more easily than going to the drive. And I'll do a VLOOKUP formula, and without going into too much detail, I grab my cost of goods from the ASINs, and then I will take this new report and run it through either ScanPower Evaluate or Price Checker 2 to get the market information. And the logic behind getting the market information is that I'm not the only buyer at this company. I'm one of a few buyers here. And of the stuff that I don't buy, I don't always know the intention of the buyers. Now, if it's an Amazon flip, I don't know if they're buying to sell at full MSRP or if they're buying because Amazon dropped it by a certain percentage. If it's OA, my reference point is our cost price and the MSRP on Amazon, because I don't have the buy box price at the time of purchase. For RA, I do have that, so it's a little bit more easily to work with. And wholesale, I only have the MSRP as well. So in most scenarios, I don't know exactly what the selling price is going to be. So if I run it through software and I grab the buy box price, the net profit and the ROI at the buy box price, the sales rank, the number of FBA sellers, if Amazon's on the listing, how many sellers there are, and all this relevant information for me, and the Amazon fees, I can not only more accurately update my formula, but I can more accurately price towards the market, and then anything I'm setting is not going to be a blanket 30% ROI for the first 30 days or a blanket 50% for the first 30 days. It's going to be tiered towards the market is. And the reason I like doing it this way is, let's say Jackie finds something and he buys it, let's say a few items of a few of the same product, and the buy box price is, getting you a 250% return because maybe you have a low cost price or it's an extremely good deal. It got a lot of discounts on it. I don't want to set my mins too low if I'm running the risk that I'm going to be the cause for the price war. Because whenever you have a repricer set, whether you match the lowest FBA or undercut them by a penny or do whatever, you don't know what the other people's repricers are set to. They might automatically undercut you no matter what you do. So if I set my mins too low and I trigger that war, it's going to go to my min, not so quickly because, over time it prices, but I don't want to take that risk and have it go down to my min so soon. So if I set my mins relative to the market, let's say, what I've been doing lately is to get me 55% of the ROI at the buy box. So if the buy box is 100% ROI, I'll set my min to get me 55% ROI. If it's, I'll actually just get it up. So I know I think I have an example on here somewhere with it. Definitely on my other computer. Because I have a bunch of I use a lot of criteria to determine where I set my prices. I think it's a little more thorough and a little more accurate, but it is a little bit more, I guess, complicated. But I think it works in the long run. And it's not to discount the previous method. I think the other previous method is fine, and it's easy to manage. But yeah, so just for example, if I set my min price at 55% ROI, where the buy box is 100% ROI, even if I do cause that price war, I'm stopping at a higher point, which means they're going to stop at a higher point as well. So I want to keep that price as high as possible within the first 30 days without running the risk of just dropping down to our bare minimum early on. So just for an example, I'll just take a wholesale list for an example because it has cost prices and it's a good example to use with. I have no idea what this list is, so we'll see. And just to show how the formulas kind of work. So here's an example. Let's assume this is our template or our repricing information. If the ROI, here's my ROI column, and let's say here's our minimum price column. I'll just rename this. So based on our cost price, let's say the current buy box is getting us these ROIs. I'm going to set a formula that basically states, without going into too much detail, if the ROI is greater than 70%, I'm going to set my min price to get me 55% of this ROI. Now, you don't have to do it that way. You can say, well, let me undercut the buy box by a certain percentage. I just like doing this method because I know where my numbers are. And again, not going too much detail of the actual formula at the moment. So that's the value if it's true. So this formula says if it's greater than 70%, get me 55% of the ROI for my minimum. If it's less than or equal to 70%, I set it to do the 1.3, a 30% ROI. Because whoever did the sourcing at the time of the research was willing to sell it at around 30% ROI or up to 70% ROI. So I'm willing to set my min at 30% for those items. So I'm pricing my inventory slightly differently based on not only how much we paid for it, but where the market is at the moment. So I'll do 1.3 times, which is exactly the formula we had in the template. And then I'll set the mins in bulk that way. And this is just another way of doing it. I like doing this method. It's not always the easiest way, and there's a lot of more things to consider, but I like looking at a lot of data and making decisions off that. That's just a personal preference, though. So that's a good strategy, or in general, just having a strategy for pricing things in bulk. Whether or not you're familiar with Excel or not, it doesn't really make a huge difference, because if you have a template built, you just have to copy and paste into there and then drag down doing the bare minimum of Excel. So it's better than doing things one at a time, because we've worked in that field and we've done things manually. It saves so much time doing this. Even if it takes some getting used to, it's definitely worth in the long run to do something like using a template. And we had a question. Price Checker 2. I've been using them lately because I think they're more thorough than Scampower at the moment. A little more expensive, but it also works a little bit more quickly. So I've been using them a lot lately for wholesale evaluation and just in general to run my list because it's faster and I get the same data Scampower gives me already. So any other questions here online? Yes. Yep. Yeah.
1 week. But the challenge I got is my shipments go all over.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm waiting.
They're not active. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. Yep.
7 days go by. I want a week price again. So we drop it a little bit. So we just constantly moving.
Right. That's a good question. For those that can hear on the online, the question is how often would you update your inventory after they've gone live? So basically, a common practice is every 30 days or so, or every 3 weeks, you'll update prices in bulk for the inventory that's been sitting there. Because I mean, the stuff you're purchasing, for the most part, if you're doing arbitrage, you want it to sell quickly, within 3 months usually. So if it's still sitting there and it's not competitive enough after, let's say, 30 days, you can be more aggressive with your pricing. So you can update that after 3 weeks or a month and say, well, now I'm going to go to 15% ROI, or maybe even break even if you want to, if you're so inclined to do so. So if you have a bulk template, you can just update the formula, copy and paste those ASINs onto that formula, or those SKUs rather, and then you can work that way. So a lot of people do tier just downward over based on inventory age. The problem I see with that is that this gets a little more difficult, is that sometimes you're going to set your min prices differently, but that's not going to affect anything if, like, let's say you're not at your min price yet. Let's say it just hasn't sold for 30 days, but you're between your min and max. Like, the competition's staying where it's at, it's not moving. Lowering your min's not going to change anything because it's not at your min yet, so it's not going to go further down. So you're willing to do that. You can do manual prices to override the min and max, to hold it somewhere for a certain time. You can lower your max price to force it downward as well, or if the item's at your max as well, like, again, lowering your min wouldn't do anything. So yeah, updating your prices after a certain time if based on inventory definitely makes sense, but it's not always as simple as just dropping your min prices, because that does not going to affect your entire inventory. It'll take care of a good chunk, but you're going to have overlap to the next term of things that didn't change, and you're going to continuously lower your min price, and it's not going to affect anything.
Yeah. The other question I had though is, week 1, I got about a day, sent it out, let's say $8.
Yeah.
Maximum.
Mm-hmm.
I don't buy that same product until the 3rd or 4th week later. Now my concern is maybe the market bringing the price down. Yeah. Or I have a lower one for 2 or 3 months. And the last price in town was like $6 and maximum $12.
Yeah.
I send that out. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah. So the question is, if you buy a product again at a later point in time, and if you already adjusted your min and max prices to be lower, and the market changes and adjusts back to where it is, when you list it again, it'll reactivate your original min and max price, and therefore overriding it. So the fix for that is, well, there's 2 ways to fix that technically. The first way is if you re-import the new buy on these templates with the original formula, it'll adjust your SKU. Because if you're listing the same SKU, then it'll do that. If you list a new SKU, the new SKU will have its own parameters, and as long as you make sure the other one stays inactive, you should be fine in that case. Now, the other thing is, let's say you don't make changes to the min and max price. Now, it happens, but it's not that likely that the prices adjust back upwards. So typically speaking, let's say you had your min price at 15 and max price at 20, and then as time goes by, it sells out and your min price is at 10 and your max price is at 15, but the market comes back to 20. So at the very least, if your pricer should be set to match the lowest FBA price within your min and max parameters. So as long as you don't keep your max too high, no matter where your min is, you'll still be matching the buy box, but you don't, again, same thing, you don't want to have your min too low for the first 30 days, because if you do trigger that price war, you're going to go down further and further and further. So it's a little, it's you have to kind of keep track of what stuff are replenishes. But having a template to upload your mins and maxes will fix that because you're just adjusting the existing SKUs. Yeah.
What I see sometimes on an item, you get one seller that has two listings out there. One is meaning, it's the same product, but he's got a price.
Yeah. That's a case. So the question is, what if a seller has listing on their twice at two different prices? That's an example where they have two of the ASIN has two different SKUs or more, and they're both active. So they can be live at different prices. Now, if you're commingling, that inventory is shared. So if you have 10 products that you bought total between the first purchase and the second purchase, and you have a different SKU, so if you bought 5 and 5, it's not going to be 5 for one SKU, 5 for the other SKU. It's 10 total for both SKUs. So they can technically all sell at that lower SKU if they're both staying active, which is a risky situation to be in because ideally you don't want to have more than one SKU per ASIN because it's technically against Amazon's terms of service. They don't really police it so much, but it's also bad for management. And we had a lot of issues with that in the past, personally. We had some liquidation deals we did, and we didn't have them, they weren't manifested, so we had to scan products separately and just list things in our system, and we were using SKUs to know that these came from this liquidation. So we had the same products listed up to 5 times at certain points. And I had to go and consolidate everything and close and delete all the extra SKUs in bulk from our system. So it was kind of a hectic thing to do. But yeah, if you are not commingled, that means everything is stickered. The 2 different SKUs will be unique. So the inventory won't even be shared for those ones. So if that's the case, that's a possibility in that sense. But if it is commingled and they have 2 different products, the same product listed multiple times, that's a situation where they have more than one SKU for the same product and they're both at different prices for whatever the reason is. And that could be because there's a different cost price, but you just want to make sure you're keeping track of